Right. What is happening? It is a good day to be alive, and I've been looking forward to making this video for you guys for a long time. And this is just a review of the gear I use on the PCT through hike attempt of 2017. Over the course of the hike, I've been asked pretty often how come I never made a gear video in the beginning, and my thought was always that anybody could go to the store and buy a bunch of gear and make a video about it, but I wanted to use it. I wanted to see what works, what wore out fast, and be able to put a good list together for you guys of what worked for me. So I just want you guys to keep that in mind too. This is totally what worked for me on the hike. This might not work for anybody else, and it's not the most ultralight setup, and along the way I definitely added a lot of things that added some weight. But man, let's get to it. To kick it off, we will start with the big three. That is your backpack, your sleeping bag, and your tent or your shelter. And so for my backpack, this is the Granite Gear Crown VC 60 liter pack. And it worked pretty well for me. It costs about 240 bucks and weighs about 34 ounces. And like I was saying, it worked really well for me. Towards the end here, this strap broke right there, and I haven't even got time to wash it yet. So I guess I would say one of the downsides to it is it doesn't have hip belt pouches. But at the beginning of the hike, I bought a Z-Pax one and attached it to there. And once that kind of got eaten by the mice, I just kept finding little things I could attach to here to, you know, little pouches or things to put supplies in that I needed or snacks throughout the day. But other than that, a fantastic pack. Granite Gear makes awesome packs, and the new ones actually come with hip belt pouches, and they're a lot more geared up for through hiking. So if you're looking for a good pack, look for Granite Gear. Also, I would also suggest there's a new little company I found. They're not a sponsor or anything like that, but they're called Waymark Gear Company, based out of Utah. Awesome little packs. I was checking those out, and that'll probably be my next pack that I get. Inside of this Sea to Summit stuff sack is my sleeping bag. That was the Enlightened Equipment Revelation. Cost me about 307 bucks after shipping and tax, and weighs about 20 ounces. I got the 20-degree bag, and it worked perfect on the trail. I'd say 20 degrees is good. I knew some people that even had 10 degrees and 0 degrees, and they would find themselves hot most of the time. My shelter, this is my tent. This is Henry Shire's tarp tent Notch, and it has been seam sealed by them. It cost me about $350 after tax and shipping, and it weighs about 27 ounces, and I have nothing bad to say about this tent. It was a little wide in some areas of where we were trying to camp, but you know, that's not the tent's fault. That's my fault for picking those spots. So I would suggest this tent to anybody, man. It held up really well, and I had nothing break on it. The seam seal was perfect in the rain that we had, and I used MSR groundhog stakes. These are the 4 original ones that I had bought at the beginning of the hike, and they stayed with me the whole time. Never broke. I would suggest these as well, and I just had a little sack to put them in, so make sure I didn't lose them, because I'm pretty good at that. For my sleeping pad, this is only one of 3 that I used on the trail showing here, and this is the REI Cirrus, and this one was free. I actually got this in a hiker box, and I would suggest getting a double walled or double insulated sleeping pad if you want to use a blow up pad. I also use the Thermarest Z-Lite, which is, you know, just the foam pad. That one was 14 ounces and weighed 45 bucks, so it's cheap and it's light, but I just didn't have the best night's sleep on it. So I would suggest that, or I also tried the REI Flash. That was 14 ounces as well, cost me 90 bucks, but it was just too thin, man. It popped all the time, and had little holes in it all the time, so I couldn't ever keep it pumped up enough for me to have a comfortable night's sleep. But at the end of the day, this ended up working for me. It's pretty heavy. I don't even know how heavy it is, but I'm guessing it's over a pound. It's pretty heavy. But I would suggest to anybody that's looking to get a pad that wants to have a good night's sleep, invest in sleep. Invest in your sleepwear on the trail, because that is so important, and it'll make your hiking days a lot better. We're going right along with that. I used some different things for a pillow. I actually hiked with this for a while. This is Papa Rob's. This is just an LL Bean blow-up pillow, and I was having some really uncomfortable night's sleep, so I got this to sleep on, and I loved it. Before that, I was just stuffing all my clothes inside this. This is a Z-Pax pillow bag. It's versatile, so you can either have this inside or outside, but what I would do is shove all my clothes inside here and then make it real tight and sleep on that. So that worked for me as well. More lighter, so because I was carrying both at one time, but sleep became so important to me. I cannot stress that enough. This is actually off my old pad, off my Z-Lite. So if you're looking for a Z-Lite, you don't know what they look like, this is it here. And I cut this off a long time ago and used it for a sit pad. At the beginning of the hike, I thought the idea of a sit pad was kind of dumb, to be honest, and I didn't think it would be useful, but it is so useful on your breaks. You just have this on the outside of your pack, sit down, you can sit anywhere and be comfortable. I promise you will want it. Just invest in it or just cut off some pad. Any foam pad will do, but I highly suggest it. Moving on to my clothing, I'll start over here. This was my Patagonia jacket, my Nano Puff jacket. It cost me $134 brand new and weighs about 13 ounces. And like most of my gear, I would suggest that to anybody. Kept me warm the whole trail, and of course lime green because that's my favorite color. And I carried one pair of shorts the whole time. Towards the end, I got these New Balances out of a hiker box, and I was wearing those. These are the Brooks running shorts. They lasted almost the whole trail with me. So I would suggest running shorts. You're not gonna, I at least did not want to hike in pants too often. Just having something around my legs was pretty uncomfortable. I carried underwear for about the first week, and then I just stopped carrying underwear, and I just used a liner, or went commando, as they say. Moving right along to shirts. As you can see, I have a bunch of shirts here. I only carried 2 of these at one time on the trail, but these are the shirts that I regularly carried. The one that I carried the whole time and wore the whole time was this Columbia green shirt here. Super light and wicks the moisture really well. But shirts for me were just kind of fun. They were a fun thing to collect. And like this one I got in Warner Springs, it was actually a denim short sleeve, and I completely destroyed it. But you know, shirts, you're gonna sweat, you're gonna get gross. So it's kind of just, for me, didn't really matter. I just wanted to wear something that was comfortable. Just some warmer weather gear. We only had 7 days of rain. We got really lucky. Only about 7 days of weather on the trail, at least for me on my hike. And so I didn't use my rain gear too often, but I started with this Frog Togs jacket. Never carried the pants. It's the sport edition of the line that they have. Super cheap, rips super easily, but I didn't have to wear it too often, so it lasted my whole hike. And then I eventually got this. This is just a windbreaker from Columbia. I used it in the rain, and it kept me dry though for the couple times that it rained, so I would suggest that to anyone. This is an Under Armour long sleeve shirt, and I always carried something like this to keep me warm. This was sent to me by my buddy Bobby, and sometimes I wore it at night when it was super cold or hiking throughout the day. And last but not least, my tights, man. I would suggest tights to anybody. These are helium tights, I believe, and they're super light and super thin, but they kept me warm. Just having something on my legs at night was always really nice. And sometimes, you know, in those cold mornings, you just wear them and then shed the layers as you go. Came to socks. I use Darn Toughs. Darn Toughs, I don't know how else to say it, and I'm sorry to say it like this, but they get crusty. They get nasty really fast. They're great socks. They hold up. I use these almost the whole trail. But along the trail, I picked up socks a lot, and I just would wear them until I wore them out. You know, socks were kind of like shirts for me. If they were comfortable, I knew they were going to get worn out and nasty anyways. So I kind of almost rather have something I didn't spend a lot of money on that I could just throw away. But I would suggest these. I would also suggest Injinji socks. If you're a sandal hiker, get these. They have double layer ones, they have thicker ones, wool ones. I would suggest wearing them because they're pretty comfortable as well, and they cut down on blisters. But again, when it came to socks, just be comfortable. Get something that's gonna wick the moisture away from your feet so you're not sweating all day. And for shoes, I started with these Ultra Lone Peaks. These are probably the most famous thing you'll see on the trail. Almost everybody had this exact same pair that I saw, at least. And they're great shoes, really great. That's why they just wear out fast. The durability on them is pretty low. So I would still suggest them to anyone. They are 0 drop. So I did get the Super Feet insoles. This was the most recommended. I didn't do a lot of research or anything, but these helped a lot as well. I put these in my Ultras and in my boots. These are Loa Renegades, and I did the most miles on the trail with these. About 1,200 miles on these boots, and they're still in pretty decent shape. So really expensive though. That's the only downside to them. They were about $240, and the Ultra is about 105, 120, something like that. So pretty expensive, but it lasted me so many miles. And last but not least, I did do about 250 miles of the trail in sandals. And these are Bedrocks, and I cannot highly suggest these to anybody more than I have. I mean, I love these sandals. You know, they're a little bit pricey, $100 to $120, something like that, but they are so good to hike in with the Vibram soles. And I got 2 sizes higher so I don't stub my toe. As you can see, that would be my toe right there, but I had my toe pretty far back. But again, I would suggest these to anyone if you're interested in hiking in sandals, which it doesn't work for everybody. It doesn't work for a lot of people actually, but it is pretty nice, keeps your feet dry. And the last couple things on clothing, this is my most famous hat that I guess I wore on the trail, and I loved it, my straw hat. At night I put a lot of things in it like this in my tent, so you know, mice wouldn't get to them or anything like that. So it actually has a multi-use, but it's really big, so if you're not wearing it, you got to strap it to your pack. But just like before, I collected hats kind of as I went, just wore ones that were comfortable and things like that. This is the hat, the beanie. This is I call this my tree cutting hat, and this went with me the whole trail. I had some other beanies in there too, that maroon one for a while, but this stuck with me. Something just warm, you know, you don't have to get that most highest price. I think I found this in like old clothes that I had from high school, and I ended up just taking it and loving it. I would suggest having something that goes pretty far down on your ears. That's my only suggestion. And lastly, for just cold weather, I had these gloves. I only carried these in Northern California and the very end of Washington. I carried them. I don't think you need gloves. You don't need gloves. You're gonna have some cold mornings for sure, where you wish you had gloves, but to carry them the whole time just to have them for those moments, I don't know. It's up to you. This here is my cooking setup. This is the Jetboil Minimo. I bought it for $135, brand new, 15 ounces, and obviously it has a little bit more character than when I first bought it. There's some dents in it, some scrapes in it. I took the outside off so I could cook it over a fire. You know, this thing lasted me the whole trail, and I loved it, man. I loved this thing. I lost the lid, and some generous person on the internet sent me a new one, so I appreciate that. But it's wide. I loved it. A lot of Jetboils are the very thin ones. This one's pretty wide, so it made cooking pretty easy. This is the stove part. Just broke actually, the self-igniter, so I rewired it, as you can see right there, and drops the spark right where the gas comes out. So that still works actually. The igniter still works, and that's the little case that it came in. This is the spork that I used, and I still have some peanut butter on it apparently. And this is the Sea to Summit Alpha Light little spork, 0.4 ounces, $9. Get a spork if you're out there hiking for a long time. I don't know if you would want to actually get a spork. Some people really like spoons, didn't stab their bags and things like that they were eating out of. I don't know, you go back and forth. I like the spoons too. So either way, whatever works better for you. This is just a fuel can. I always carried a larger one with me because I did cook a lot of meals. You know, everybody has their way of cooking. Some people go stoveless, of course. All sorts of different ways. I love to have hot meals, so I always had a big can of fuel. I didn't mind the weight, of course. I always had Life water bottles. These are the best water bottles to have on the trail for me personally. I tried the bladders, but I could just never get them to pack the right way I wanted them to in my bag. I could hear them sloshing around right in my ear. And so I ended up just sticking with water bottles, and I only ever kept 2 1-liter water bottles, even in the desert. There was a couple times I had 3, but that was just because I had an old bottle that I needed to throw away. So I would suggest having a strong, rigid water bottle in your backpack that can all go on the outside. It's definitely useful. And for my water filter, the famous Sawyer Squeeze. I took the wrapper on the outside off, and it worked the whole trail. This is the one I started with, and still works. So Sawyer Squeeze, man, they're $40, so I would suggest that. Just make sure you back flush it. Just gonna jump over here to my trekking poles. These are the Lecky Cork Light poles. They don't weigh too much. They are pretty expensive, but they're the hardest working piece of gear that I had on the trail. I use them every day, and then right when I get, you know, to where we were going to camp, I use these for my tent. The tarp tents, most of them require, they have trekking poles. So they were my hardest working piece of equipment, and it lasted the whole time. and I loved these things. You know, trekking poles are kind of one of those things on the trail that people say you might not need, you might need, it's up to you. I loved them. They kept my arms going. They kept, you know, my hands doing something. And on those cold mornings, if your hands are just hanging there, they're going to be a lot more cold. So I would suggest getting trekking poles. And if you need good ones, get Leckies. They are some of the best. They worked awesome for me. This next section is probably the section I got the most questions about on the trail. This is my electronics section, and these are most of the electronics that I carried with me when I hiked. So this is my battery charger, my external battery. This is a Mophie Double XL. Pretty heavy. I made a comment about this on a video before, but very heavy. It's almost a pound. I think it's like 15.5 ounces. But this is 20,000 milliamps. So I got a good, it's hard to say. I think I got probably about 10 to 15 charges every single time out of this. But the hard part is when you get to town, it's going to take about 18 hours to charge. So right when you get to town, if you're staying overnight, just plug it in. I always just found myself having it on the outside of my pack, and I would just plug it in anytime I could. Anytime I was in town, I would just have it plugged in. This is your classic spot device, and actually Papa Rob gave me this. He had it for a trip he was going on, and let me use it for this, and I mainly just carried it for him to track where I was at night. So every night I would hit the on button and the little tracker button right here, and it just gives a GPS location back to where I'm at. The PCT in terms of that isn't that dangerous, but you know, unfortunately people do get lost, and you know, just for my parents' sake, I carried it for them. This is my headlamp. This is the Black Diamond Storm, and it's $260, and it cost me $150 and weighs about 4 ounces, battery powered. I would suggest, if you have a big battery pack like this, getting one that charges with USB. Getting batteries for this thing and accidentally leaving it on and them dying and not having it when it was dark, it was pretty hard. And I think, in my opinion, what I saw on the trail, there's better headlamps out there. I don't want to talk down on Black Diamond, but their headlamps just did not cut it for me. This was always a little bit too, you know, wasn't light enough, or I don't know, I could just never get it to be as bright as I wanted it to, and everybody else's seemed brighter. So I liked it for what it did for me, but I think there's better ones out there for sure. This was with me the whole time. This is my GoPro Hero 4 with this case. As you can see, it's got some dings on it and stuff. It's been used a lot. I used this about 10% of my filming that I did on the trail, and this was just mainly for fun. I would take this, attach it to this, which is actually a handlebar mount for a bicycle for GoPro. GoPro makes these, and I just put this on my trekking pole. Pretty tight. I had to put it, you know, as tight as it would go, but it stayed really well, and you know, it just attached right like this, and I could film many things with it. So I would suggest that, kind of have your own little selfie stick thing if you wanted to. Wasn't too heavy, and the filming's fun. The only thing is this takes a lot of battery to charge. So there's quite a few times I wasn't able to film with this just because I couldn't get it charged enough in town, and I needed my phone. So, you know, it takes a lot to charge it. The batteries, if they get cold, they'll die faster, but I had fun with it. These here are just all the cords, charging cords. I carried 3. I taped them together at the beginning. Don't do that. That's a bad idea. When it comes to headphones, I have 3 different here. I use these at different times on the trail. Didn't all carry them at the same time. But I would just say my bottom line before I even get started on headphones, just get corded headphones, not Bluetooth headphones. It's not worth it. It's not worth the charge. Just get the corded and work with the cord. I did use Bluetooth. You guys probably saw me wearing this one, and I got this one towards the end. You know, you'd be getting on a roll hiking, and all of a sudden your charge would die, and then you don't have headphones. You got to stop, charge it. I know it sounds like a little thing, but when you're going, you're getting a good roll going. You don't want to stop. That's the last thing you want to do. I do just want to make a side comment while I was just on the electronics there. A lot of people have asked me what apps that I use, or how did I edit, how did I film on the trail mainly, and I want to address that. I want to help you guys. If you guys are into vlogging or doing like things like this, there's much better ways than the way that I did it. I learned as I went. Honestly, I didn't even start the hike knowing I was going to do that. But what I used was what I'm holding right now, and this is the iPhone 7 Plus. The the camera that points out away from you is better than the camera that points that's actually filming right now. That's better quality, so I'd always try to film any shots with that. I would never try to film with this. I only did this if I was talking at you like I am now. So I use that for 90% of my filming and my GoPro for the other 10%. That's all I used on the trail. So what would happen is just take videos. I would just film anything that, you know, inspired me throughout the day, and then at the end of the day I would organize it into a folder, put the day and the date on it. So the main app that I used for editing was iMovie. All the other ones were just, you know, photo editors or video editors. You can find, there's so many of them in the App Store these days, but the main editing software that I used or app is iMovie. And update it every once in a while. It gives you new options and fun things. I'm sure there is better ways to do it. I know that there is, but that's what works for me. And once you get fast at editing, like a video would take me, you know, 45 minutes to an hour to edit. But once you get fast at it and it's fun to look back at your day and see what you did that day. So a question I got often is, when did I edit? When did I have time to even edit? If I had battery power, I would edit at night. So spend some late nights, you know, midnight ones, and then wake up the next day, you know, you're a little bit more tired, but it's fun to edit. It's fun to, like I said, to see what you did throughout the day. But if I didn't have enough battery power and I just needed battery just to get to town, I would just edit in town. You know, most of the time we'd go out, do things, eat and stuff like that. And then when everyone else was just hanging out and chilling, I would just be editing. So that always works for me. It definitely is a commitment. I'm gonna say that. I'm gonna be honest about that with you guys. It is a huge commitment if you want to vlog on the trail, especially if you want to do every day. I won't talk down on it, but it's really hard. You got to commit to it, but the reward is great. You know, got a lot of good videos to look at the end. So hopefully that answers some questions. If you have any more questions on what I did to vlog or anything like that, just comment below and I'll try to get back to you guys. So just a couple more things before I wrap this up that I want to show you that I used or didn't use. I bought these paper maps, 50 bucks for all these maps at halfmile.com, and I did not use them once. I don't suggest that. I suggest buying them and taking them with you on the sections. There's a couple times I wish I had them, especially in the Sierra Nevadas, but I used Guthook's apps for most of my mapping, and they were amazing. They did great even when I didn't have service. I had Half Mile, but I rarely used that. So I would say get Guthooks if you're looking for something that's simple, and carry paper maps. That seems to be the way to do it. Either that or just carry paper maps. You know, this again is just what worked for me. It's not going to be what works for everybody. Moving right along to some of the smaller stuff. Of course, this is a toothbrush. I just grabbed a new one. I never cut the bottom off. It was never worth it. I carried the knife at all times. This isn't the one I started with. I actually lost that one and got this one in Oregon. I'd always have a little bag of stuff like this. Tape, alcohol pads. Always have a marker. It's very useful. You can write with it. Write signs for people. A lighter, I would suggest having 2. And some toothpaste and some earbuds and some wipes. So I actually didn't use toilet paper at all on the trip. I just used wipes, and when I went to a store I'd just find whatever wipes I could. These are obviously hand wipes, and you know, maybe they burn a little bit, but I would just use wipes, whatever I could find. You know, again, that's very personal. That's something that works, that might not work for everybody, but it worked for me. And this is the biggest piece of gear I used on the trip: Ziploc bags. I cannot suggest Ziploc bags to more than anybody. I wouldn't get the slide ones. I would just get these ones and use them up. The clearness, you can see right through them, see what's in them, see what's at the bottom, and they're durable. They last a long time, and you know, you can find Ziplocs at any store. So most of the time I would get into town and I would just refresh my Ziplocs if they're getting gross. This is just some snow stuff. Obviously didn't carry with me the majority of the trip, but I had just in case I needed. This isn't all of the stuff that I had. Just in case, but some of the main things and some of the things I wanted to touch on. This is a bug net. You're gonna need one in Oregon. Just carry a good bug net in Oregon. You're gonna want one, I promise. You know, pretty basic and it weighs nothing. This is an umbrella. You know, when I was first starting to look into the trail, I saw everybody had these, so I wanted to get one. This is again just my opinion, but it's pretty useless, I would say. It's a cool little umbrella, but the thing that I came to terms with is that if you're trying to, you know, get away from the sun, it's gonna be hot anyways. You're going to be sweating, and wherever you are is most likely going to be windy, and this thing breaks down fast in the wind. Same with the rain. It's most likely going to be windy if it's raining, and this thing is going to fold up on itself. So I don't know if I would suggest this. This is the Euroskirm little umbrella, but you know, to each their own. This is a Black Diamond Ice Axe. This is a small one. Actually, I had this sent to me, and I appreciate the folks that sent it to me. Thank you very much. And I used this a couple times up in the Sierras when we were over Forster and Whitney, but again, I don't know how much I would have used it. I need more practice with it anyways. So moving along to my crampons. I had boots in the Sierras, and I just didn't use these. I guess if I would have gone through all of the Sierras all together, I probably would have used them a lot more. But I used them once, and that was the morning that we summited Whitney. So this was a bad buy for me personally. I spent $150 on these and used them maybe 2 hours of the whole hike. But again, if I would have gone through more snow, I know I would have used them. So I'm not saying they're completely useless, but you know, just for my hike this summer, I didn't really super need them. I could have gone along with just some microspikes, and I used these on San Jacinto and a couple other times, and you know, they're not the most cheap thing on the planet, but they get the job done, and they give you that extra little grip that you need on your shoes. That is a rain cover that I use most of the time, or I just put a trash compactor bag inside. Your bag is going to get wet if it rains no matter what. Again, we were blessed on our trip that we only had like 7 days of rain. Again, I know that I was blessed to have that. A lot of people had a lot more rain, but I rarely use that. I most of the time just use a trash compactor bag. And last but not least, the Bear Vault, and use this in the Sierras. And if it was lighter, I would use it the whole time. It makes a great seat, and you don't have to worry about, you know, putting your food anywhere. I just would put this outside my tent. So I wish it was lighter and maybe, I don't know, a little bit more flexible. I could have put it in my pack and carried it the whole time. So a few things that weren't pictured in that video, and one is sunglasses. I always had a pair of sunglasses, but I always broke them quick. So I bought a cheap pair, and the blue pair that I had for the longest time were $10. I got those in Mexico. So just get cheap glasses if you're someone like me that breaks their sunglasses a lot. And the other thing was the ground cloth, this blue ground cloth that everything is on. That's what I actually put my tent on. Super heavy. Papa Rob gave it to me. And I started with Tyvek. I started with the Tyvek ground sheet, but it ripped. And a lot of people told me it was going to be super durable. And maybe I abused it, but it did rip a lot. And so I ended up just getting something that's like this, and very useful. I mean, we used this when we were taking breaks. We'd all sit on it. If I was cowboy camping, I had a lot more room. It kept me a lot more warm, so pretty heavy. I think it's over a pound, but it definitely did the trick. So I hope that all that gear talk was helpful for you guys if you guys are planning a trip. And please, please ask questions. I remember when I was looking into the hike, I just didn't, you know, I had some weird questions that I thought maybe were dumb or obvious or something like that, and I didn't know who to ask. And so please ask, please comment on this video, comment on Instagram, anything, ask me, and I will try to get back to you. I'll try to help you. If I don't, I apologize, but I will really try to help you, because I remember that's what I really needed when I was looking for the hike. So thank you again for watching this video, and hopefully it helped, man. I'll see you guys soon.